So we're good. Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our April 4th Town Council meeting. We're here tonight for the continuation of our public hearing on the update to the Portsmouth Comprehensive Community Plan. However, we are currently one member short of a quorum, so we are in a little bit of a holding pattern until another council member shows up. Once he arrives, we will continue on with our public hearing. So I'd just ask everybody to sit tight for a few minutes and wait. For your entertaining pleasure, we're gonna have open mic for the participants in the audience. We'll start with Mr. McGaugh. Would you like to come up and sing us soon? Mr. Fitzmaurice. Mr. Grieve. We're going to turn this around.
I'm sure Ray can find karaoke somewhere on the web. Do a big sing along.
Nope, we will just sit tight. But hopefully we'll.
If you remember how to play it, what? Yeah. Not so much.
Apologies. Okay, we now have a quorum and we can continue on with the meeting. Before we begin, I just want to go through the safety procedures in the event of an emergency. Please exit out the doors to your left or through the door in the front here We'd exit the building and we'll meet across the street at the school administration building and await further instruction. This is a live streaming event. Those of you participating remotely from home via the internet and Zoom, there's an icon where you can click to raise your hand, and we would call upon you. If you're calling in by phone, *6 will mute and unmute your phone. *9 will indicate that you have a question. If you're participating remotely or in-house tonight, when you come to the podium or are called upon, please state your name and address for our clerk. And with that, we will begin with a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence for our men and women serving in harm's way. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all.
Thank you all. Okay, if we could begin with a quick roll call.
Mr. Hamilton,
Here, sorry, I'm not used to going first.
Mr. Katzman,
Here.
Mr. Kelly,
Here.
Mr. Aguirre.
Here, got to be on your toes tonight. Okay, so this is a continuation of our public hearing for the comprehensive community plan. Tonight's agenda, we're looking to review the revisions to element 5, economic development, element 6, revisions. Element 6, agriculture, element 7, services and facilities, element 8, energy, and then we will continue on with elements 9, 10, 11, and 12. So we'll begin with Mr. Crosby, if you could just give us a recap of the revisions to element number 5.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let's go back to the recreation element, page 2-10. We inserted the word exhaustive. We removed the word exhaustive and changed it to the word comprehensive in the second paragraph. On page 211, we added, we changed the word exhaustive to comprehensive in footnote C. And we also added a small c in the top of the column facilities to direct people to the note below. In the economic development element, page 515, we make the end of the large paragraph there on page 515 state the concept of defining property as recreational residential remains valid as a type of residential development. On page 522, we inserted the word negative between the words potential and impacts in action item ED 2.3a. On page 523, I changed the words Newport County Chamber of Commerce to Greater Newport Chamber of Commerce. That was something that was pointed out to us by Rich Zalipsky, the Economic Development Director. On page 524, we inserted the phrase public or private between, we changed the action item ED 3.1a to read collaborate in and prioritize the development of public or private high-speed broadband internet to all of Aquidneck Island. On page 527, we inserted an action item 5.3D, which reads encourage agribusiness as a vital part of town economy. This was a piece encouraged or suggested by Linda Ujifusa and by Sarah Churgan through Linda Ujifusa. On page 6-4, we added a paragraph. We added to the paragraph 6.2.3 some additional language. In addition, promoting agriculture promotes local jobs. A recent effort to increase education about and interest in agricultural careers has been started by a partnership between the Portsmouth School District and the Eastern Rhode Island Conservation District with their Portsmouth Ag Innovation Farm program located on Jepson Lane at Clover Bud Ranch. This program introduces students to all aspects of farming, such as business management, technology, and engineering. It goes on to page 6.5, saying agriculture also brings tourism dollars to the town, as, for example, Greenvale Vineyards and Ragged Island Brewery have done. Now, I didn't, because we are mentioning Greenvale Vineyards and Ragged Island Brewery in this paragraph, I'm going to have to go back and add them to the inventory in the front matter for the agricultural. There's a whole list of all the farms, and we can't refer to something here that doesn't refer to there, so I'll go fix that. Moreover, promoting local agriculture addresses our food supply issue. Rhode Island only produces about 2% of the food consumed by its population, a situation made more ominous because of recent threats to the food chain supply. This is all language that was provided by Sarah Churgan and Linda, Ms. Ujifusa. The last, let's see, agricultural element, page 6.6. We added a action item to accompany those additions. Ag 2.1H continued to support efforts to educate students and community with partnerships such as the one with Ag Innovation. On page, now we go to, there were no changes in the first services and facilities element. We go to the energy element. We added on page 8.8-2, we added an action item, explore E1.2E, explore location and ownership options to establish electric vehicle charging stations in Portsmouth. And also an action item, E1.2F, explore options for incorporating energy efficient vehicles into the municipal fleet. And we made those changes into the implementation. We added those to the implementation table, element 13 as well. So those are the changes from last time.
And we did tentatively approve them pending those changes, correct?
Yes, I
So we
believe so.
don't need to reapprove them.
I agree, yes.
Okay. All right, so then we will continue on to element 9, water supply.
Yes, I'll give you my usual speech for each of the elements. What is water supply and why do we include it here in the comp plan? The term water supply refers to the ways in which drinking water, that is water that's fit for human consumption, is delivered to those who will use it and or consume it. As we all know, citizens of Portsmouth, apart from Hog Island, who all are on private wells, drinking water is delivered by the Portsmouth Water and Fire District, the Prudence Island Water District, and the Newport Water Department. So I guess the obvious question is why, if they're the ones who are providing our drinking water, do we have to have it in the comprehensive plan? Well, they are responsible for treating and distributing our drinking water, but they have no jurisdiction over our land use. which provides for the demand for their water and also provides for protection of the water sources. So that's where we come in as far as our jurisdiction is for land use, and so that's why it's in the plan here. We want to make sure that our land use planning is in alignment with their demand and supply management strategies. And this entire element has been vetted by the Portsmouth Water and Fire District and the Prudence Island Water District. So they're familiar with they made a few changes, but not much. They're familiar with all of the material that's in this element. So we're in good alignment with them. So water supplies.
Okay. Do we have any questions, comments from counselors? This one that obviously did seem very, very straightforward. And I do agree that, the importance here is more about the watershed protection and our ability to control development within the watershed. So this is definitely an important element for us. Are there any questions, comments online? Nothing? Okay.
Motion to tentatively approve section 9.
Second.
All those in favor?
Mr. Hamilton,
Aye.
Mr. Katzman,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Mr. Aguilar.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0.
Technically, it should be element 9, correct? In that section.
Yeah. Element
Yes.
9.
Element 9.
Okay, we're going to move on to element 10, transportation.
The term transportation refers to the movement of people and goods from place to place. Some municipalities use the word circulation to replace transportation in their comprehensive plans, but in a sense, they're the same thing. It's our responsibility to develop and maintain a network of facilities and infrastructure to accommodate multiple modes of transportation. Why do we have it here in the comprehensive plan? It allows us to take a long-range view of our needs, a more comprehensive view of our transportation needs, not just the individual pieces, and to align transportation goals and policies with other aspects of our community, particularly land use, economic and development and housing, sort of the big three. So transportation kind of affects all of the elements of, it's all intertwined. That's kind of the thing with the comprehensive plan, and particularly the big four, I would say: land use, economic development, housing, and transportation. They all intertwine. So it's here for us to make those connections throughout the plan. So there's transportation for it.
Thank you, Mr. Crosby. Any questions or comments from counselors on this section?
Just a couple quick corrections.
Okay.
East Main Road has, from what I can count, 10 lights, soon to be 11. And West Main Road has 9 lights. If we'd like to count them off.
Okay, we're
Section 10.41 roadway network on page 10-3,
10
paragraph 2. East Main Road, Route 138 is a major local artery servicing most of the retail service business and adjacent to most residential areas. It runs to Middletown line, ramp leading onto Route 24, section of Lloyd's Lane.
Okay.
East Main Road has 10 signalized intersections. I
Okay.
count 11 if we count Linden Lane. It's short to have, soon to happen, but
Yeah,
I've got
all right.
Sandy Point, Union Street, the Glen, Macquarie, Stubtoe, out in front of Clements at Turnpike. I forget the name of the road, Dunkin' Donuts, Sprague Street, Park Avenue, and Lloyd's. I think that's 10,
So we just need to update the
to 8 to 10.
8 to 10.
And then West Main Road, I think they counted 8 as well. And I think there's 9 if we go all the way out to the bridge on
Okay.
114. So we've got Union Street, Bayview, Raytheon, Stringham, Kings Grant, Headley, Quarry, the lighted turnpike and Sprague on the other side, and then the bridge. I think that's 9, excuse me. It's not listed. I don't think you put,
I'll add a sentence to that, okay?
They might not be
it's
counting.
it's on the next page. If you go down to 10.4, the next paragraph, there's, it has 9 signalized intersections.
Okay.
Should be 8, should be 9, should be, it says 8, should be 9.
All right.
Yep.
Right, it's out there.
No, but I'll find it. That's fine. Oh, there it is, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. Mr. Kelly?
And then Gary on 10-9 under public transportation. So there's the bus 60 and there's also the bus 60X. And I would add Bristol Ferry Road and Boyd's Lane as other roads that they have stops on.
Okay, can do. I'll look for the route. I was not aware of bus 60X.
Yeah, that's the express bus. It stops,
Just at Boyd's Lane.
let me think. Sorry.
It alternates.
Gateway, Boyd's Lane, Tiverton, Park and Ride, Fall River, Kennedy Plaza.
That's
and then the
their
same way
alternate
back.
one that they talked about.
Yeah, that's the X.
Yeah.
I did ride it once just to check it out.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Do we have any further questions? Anything online?
I just have one other quick comment, and I don't know if we want to put it in here as an action item, because I think it's encompassed in your action items in terms of expanding the public transportation. But I know we've talked a few times about trying to get a bus and see if it would be useful to get a bus to go down Park Avenue
Yeah,
and make the loop
absolutely.
back around.
It really, unless you live within about 10-minute walk from East or West Main Road, you're not
Right.
serviced by
Right.
public transportation, which has everything to do with housing and everything else. So, yeah, it would be very nice to,
Yeah, I thought when RIPTA gave us the presentation, I remember we had a discussion about that. And I thought RIPTA had indicated that they would study that, especially for us where we've got a lot of restaurants and things in that area. It might be, beneficial to provide additional service down there. It might be seasonal, but
Yeah, I mean, I think that falls under, I guess it falls under action
Hmm.
T-2-.2B, but maybe if we include,
2A and 2B,
Yeah.
to reinstate the Flex Bus program.
maybe if we could just put specifically to service Island Park and Hummock's neighborhoods. Well, it'd actually be all the neighborhoods, Island Park, Hummock's and Common Sense Point. So they just did a loop. They did all 3. Just that did.
You want to restrict it to just that, or perhaps other neighborhoods in town?
No, because the other neighborhoods
I
are,
think if we get specific enough like that, we sort of limit ourselves to. It's up to you. It's entirely up to you.
no, you could just leave it alone. I just, as long as we keep an eye on it and as we're looking forward, we're keeping that in mind. Yeah, I don't see us ever promoting a RIPTA bus going down Wapping Road to Old Mill Lane.
No problem.
But this is more of an area where bus service makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
no, I would agree. Okay. Any further questions, comments? Okay,
Motion to tentatively approve the transportation element with the amendments that were made this evening.
Second.
all those in favor?
Mr. Hamilton,
Aye.
Mr. Katzman,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Mr. Aguiar.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. Now we're going to move on to element number 11, natural hazards and climate change.
This is a new element. that we've been required to add to guidance from statewide planning. We've been required to add a natural hazard is an event or a series of events caused by forces of nature that have a negative impact on people, infrastructure, and the environment. I like to think of climate change as basically just a natural hazard element that has been stretched out way over time. And so you can sort of think about the both of those in the same frame, perhaps a different time frame, but climate change, we've been told to expect expedited sea level rise, stronger and more frequent coastal storms, heavy and more frequent precipitation events, longer periods of drought. These are the kinds of things that we can't really, in a comprehensive plan, we sort of have to think about that. There are events that cannot be prevented, but must be planned for in order to avoid minimizing those impacts. I like to think of especially climate change. It's not a problem to be solved. We're not going to solve climate change. It's a predicament that we're going to have to face. There's two ways for planning for natural hazards and climate change: adaptation and mitigation. Now, mitigation is implementing actions to reduce or eliminate the risk to human life and property, and to decrease the severity of damage from natural hazard events. This is properly dealt with in our natural hazard mitigation plan. There's action items in there that are really meant to lessen the impacts or decrease the severity of damage from natural hazard events. This plan here, this element of this plan deals more with increasing our resilience, which is the ability to recover quicker from and with less disruption from natural hazard events, to create a better, more thriving community in the face of natural adversity. So that's the difference between the natural hazard element in the comprehensive plan and the natural hazard mitigation plan, is they sort of deal with slightly different things. One, resilience, and the other, mitigation. So this is natural hazards and climate change.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Crosby. Questions, comments?
I just have one on table 11.1.
Yep.
And I'm going to channel my best, Daniela and Linda. I think we should move sea level rise from low to medium at least,
Okay.
because the higher the sea level, the bigger the risk of the hurricanes, nor'easters, coastal flooding, and snowstorms.
I agree 100%. I think it sorted out that way when we were doing the natural hazard mitigation plan. So this just transferred right through there. I would kick it up even higher, but medium makes some sense. You know, there's a lot of conversation about when and what and how. And
Right. Is it going to be the 5.2 inches or is it going to be 3.6 feet? So,
well, just for your information in here, I established a marker for planning purposes. I established a marker. Where is it? I want to make sure that everybody understands that for planning purposes, what did I say? 3 feet?
somewhere.
This
20 years.
plan advocates future planning efforts to be conducted in this manner, but until results are produced, it's talking about scenario planning. But until results are produced and consensus can emerge, this plan establishes an intermediate to low target level for planning purposes for all public and private coastal activities of 1 to 1.5 feet of sea level rise by 2040 and 3 to 5 feet by 2100. So that's kind of the low to intermediate of what URI and the powers that be are telling us all about. So 1 to 1.5 feet by 2040. So that establishes a baseline for us to do lots of scenario planning going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Crosby.
Are you suggesting it should be moved in that table up to medium or?
Yes,
Yeah.
okay,
that was my request.
Thank you.
mean, I can make it a motion if you'd like.
Well, and that, I mean, it does have its own, it does have its own title, sea level rise, but I think a lot of it also is attributed to, in the high section, is the coastal flooding. So that's,
Right.
coastal flooding will get the attention, and then sea level rise, we should absolutely be more aware of it because we are on an island.
Agreed.
And if you tie them both together at the same time with the right storm,
We can have problems.
I have no doubt that that's going to get boosted up to
Yeah.
a much higher level of concern in the years. We just didn't want to say one thing in one plan and one.
I just think it's higher than a low right now. It's
Yeah.
medium's a good spot for it right
Given the
now.
amount of low-lying areas we have.
Preaching to the choir as far as I'm concerned.
Now, this is a topic that will continue to stay at the forefront as we deal with climate change, or potential climate impacts and such. So again, all good comments. Looking to see, do we have anything? Nothing. Okay. Do I have a motion?
Motion to tentatively approve element 11.
Second.
All those in favor?
Mr. Hamilton,
Aye.
Mr. Katzman,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Mr. Aguilar.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. And now we'll move on to our final element, element 12, land use.
So this is the biggie. This is the one that has its fingers in all of the other elements, all the way through. The term land use refers to the physical ways in which we inhabit the land: residential, commercial, industrial, recreational, agriculture, conservation, so forth. Planning for land use implies creating a balance of land uses that is appropriate for achieving Portsmouth goals and is reflective of the natural characteristics of the land, including an element regarding land use lets us see sort of the big picture. We look at the current zoning map and the current land use, and establish a future land use map and see what we need to do to get from where the land is currently being used to where we want it to be in the future. And as I said, it's tied to every other element in the comp plan. And what I've done in here, if you're a sharp reader, you will see that there are policies and action items that are word for word from other elements in the comprehensive plan. And I did that on purpose, just because to emphasize some of those things and make us pay attention to it. But so that's land use. We're not making any huge wholesale, we're not suggesting any huge wholesale changes in our future land use going forward. I think people have investment-backed expectations of what they want to do with their land, and we're not really trying to play SimCity here. So I think that you will see that there's very small incremental changes in what we've done with the land use element.
Thank you, Mr. Crosby. And I guess my comment would be just as you mentioned, this element touches, it weaves all the other elements. It touches on all of them, I believe, for the most part. And anything that we're looking at here, where we talk about, reviewing ordinances or updating ordinances, those are all going to be, a public hearing process.
Oh, sure.
This is not something that's done in a vacuum. Any of these updates that when you're starting to talk about, zoning or planning, this would all be done at a public hearing, and there'd be the opportunity for citizens to weigh in at the appropriate time. So I just wanted to put that out there because there, a lot of these things are, hitting at the core of our planning and zoning.
Sure.
And there's a lot of discussion in here about reviewing and updating. And we had that discussion earlier in one of the elements in economic development on defining the home occupation category. And that was also addressed in here. So
Sure.
again, those are the kind of things that just to restate those things would be done through the, through a public hearing process.
Right, by statute, we have 18 months to, once we adopt this plan, we have 18 months to amend our zoning ordinance to be in compliance with this plan, which is not anywhere near as daunting as it seems, because the changes that are being talked about when you bring your zoning ordinance into compliance with the plan is basically, and we've outlined them here, they're like a dozen little small actions
Mhm.
to change the zoning here on this parcel to, and so forth. It compares the current zoning map to the future land use maps and see where there's inconsistencies, and we go in and we change those. Now, we're also heading towards, and I've advocated it for years, and I think it's in the same way that we have done a wholesale rewrite of our comprehensive plan, I think our zoning ordinance needs a wholesale rewrite as well. And we're actively trying to budget for that, and we'll probably hire a consultant to help us with that in the future. I don't know about this budget or not, but again, we have it to bring our zoning ordinance into compliance. We have, a smattering of things that we have to do to keep, and then at some point in the future, we have the luxury or the responsibility, if you will, to update our zoning ordinance. So that's where that is. It's not anywhere near as daunting of a statutory process as it appears.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Crosby. Questions, comments from counselors? Anything online? Okay. Wow. All
Motion
right.
to tentatively approve element 12.
Second.
All those in favor?
Mr. Hamilton,
Aye.
Mr. Katzman,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Mr. Aguirre.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Okay, so this kind of concludes the review of the elements 1 through 12. We do need to continue the public hearing.
Are we continuing it till Monday, or are we continuing to a future meeting?
We're continuing it to
It's
Monday.
To Monday.
We'll have an agenda item on there to approve the corrections that we've made for them, and then move on to adopting an ordinance incorporating the comprehensive plan into our town code. I have some language
Mhm.
it's all there. So that's the vote.
But
And then
that's-
it goes from there, it goes to statewide planning.
Okay, so we pass the ordinance and then send it to them for final approval?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, what they do is they shop it around to our surrounding communities and around to, they review it and make recommendations for change, shop it around to abutting communities and to all of the state agencies for comment of any kind, and then come back to us with any corrections or any recommendations that they want to do. They want us to change. We go back to them with those changes, and then they sign off. So we're good.
Middletown wants to make sure we're not going to put a toll on Eastern Western Road, I guess.
So that process, I'm told, should take, because they have seen the individual elements already, it cuts down on that process considerably, and that may be 45 or 60 days, and then it comes back.
Okay.
Motion to continue this public hearing till April 11th at our next council meeting.
All those in favor?
Mr. Hamilton,
Aye.
Mr. Katzman,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Mr. Aguirre.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. And, okay, so that concludes for this evening. Just need a motion to adjourn. Oh, did you have a? Oh.
No. Yes? Are we technically going to adjourn?
No, I don't think
Which we continued.
No, we've
continued the
continued it.
hearing.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh, we have to
we
adjourn
continued the
the
hearing,
hearing.
so now it's
Okay.
just
Motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Katzman?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Aguirre?
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. We'll see everybody at our regularly scheduled meeting on April 11th.
Next week.